Okay, hi everyone. Today we're going to be carrying on looking at the topic of anxiety. And on Sunday we looked at what it said in the Gospel of Luke on chapter 12 on anxiety, how God tells us not to fear, and how Jesus was talking to his disciples about how we shouldn't be anxious and how it doesn't add anything to our life. And today I'm joined by Carolyn Levett, who's going to talk to us a little bit about anxiety. Carolyn, why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself, your personal life, and what you do in your professional life?
Okay, so I'm part of Hope Church, obviously, and I am a mum. I've got 2 grown-up sons, and I'm married, and I've got a lovely golden retriever puppy. And I'm also a counsellor supervisor, and I'm also a pastoral supervisor. So I work with Christians and non-Christians, and yeah, that's what I do.
Great. Okay, so we're looking at the topic of anxiety. So, Carolyn, what could you tell us about it? Let's start with what is it and what are the signs? What could you tell us about that?
So there's all sorts of signs depending on who we are and how we respond to anxiety. What's interesting actually is how some people don't realise they're anxious because they've never really looked at their own emotional life. They've never really looked at their feelings. So some people don't even think they get anxiety, but actually they do, because as a trained practitioner, I can actually see that in people's bodies sometimes, or I can see it in their reactions. But also, how do we know? So how do I know I'm anxious? So when I'm anxious, I find my skin colours up a little bit. I feel a little bit hot. I can feel a little bit panicky, depending on what the situation is. My tummy makes me want to go to the loo sometimes, a bit more than usual. All that sort of thing. So our bodies tell us so much more sometimes than our mind does. So that's a really important thing to think about, I think, especially for people who don't think they get anxious.
Okay. Why is it important to understand it and get to grips with it, especially as Christians as well? What can we do?
Yeah. So as a Christian myself, and having looked at my own anxieties and where they've stemmed from, do you know, I've really grown as a Christian by looking back at experiences I've had which have caused me to be anxious, which have shaped me. Looking at, relationships with parents, all of that, I can see sometimes, well, I can see where my anxiety has come from at times. So that really helps to actually be able to put those pieces together like a jigsaw of our life story, just to put those pieces in and to see why. And then it's about, how can we help ourselves, really? Yeah.
From a Christian perspective, what can we do to help ourselves in it as well?
Yeah. So one really important thing is just to call on God. So in my own personal life, when I'm feeling anxious, the first place I go to is God. And I ask him the questions, Lord, help me to see why I'm so anxious. Why is this bothering me so much? What's the reason? Are you wanting to show me something? And I've just grown so much, like I said, through those experiences. It's helped me to become stronger in myself just by actually looking at them. I think it's really easy for Christians to want to push away any feelings because they'll see them as perhaps sin, or that God wouldn't want us to be. But actually, do you know what? I think that through our emotional life, God will draw close to us and show us so much more about ourselves. If we don't open up to him from ourselves emotionally, then I think that we can be a little bit stunted as Christians. So first of all, I think draw close to God, and I see him as my anchor. So I will put my anchor into my rock, my fortress, my God. And if there's storms going on around me, I know that I can be still and I can trust him. I might still be shaking, I might still be feeling those same bodily reactions, but with deep breathing and sort of mindful exercises can be really helpful just to calm ourselves down, to focus on his words, to focus on those verses that he's given us all through the Bible, just to draw close to him. And that is therapy for me. That's just the best.
That's really good.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
allowing God to just come and speak to us, being honest with him, and actually really what you're saying is it's going to help us be more fruitful as a result, as we come and allow him to speak to us.
Yeah.
Go
And
on.
I just say, what I see, when I see us as human beings, I see us as like those trees planted by the waters, you know, in Psalm 1. The trees planted by the waters, which draw its you know, sustenance from the waters, from God, and those trees can produce fruit. And so the fruits of the Spirit, you know, I really believe that the more we look into ourselves, the bigger and more juicy those fruits will become if we're prepared to allow God to change us and show us those areas that perhaps are a little bit weaker. And we all have weak areas, so it's really important to focus on those, and just also to listen to that voice of criticism from ourselves about what we're experiencing, because sometimes we can be like that with ourselves. I shouldn't be like this. Why am I being so silly, or have those negative words to say? But you know, we can become, you know, big juicy fruits for God with those fruits of the Spirit. And wow, if they are full grown, it's just wonderful for a church to have people in it who have really just grown like that. And you know, how lovely is it to taste of that juicy fruit, you know? Lovely.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
We all want big juicy fruits.
Hey,
So that's kind of on a spiritual sense on how we can help ourselves on going to God. But what about in terms of very practical things that we can do as well to help with this anxiety?
Okay. So when I'm with clients and they're struggling with anxiety, if they're very heightened and they're like all over the place, and they come in and they're like, oh, 10 out of 10, there's absolutely no point in trying to help them, talk them through something, unless we can bring this heightenedness down. So the first step is to work with the breathing. So to take some deep, slow breaths, and to, you know, in for 4, out for 4. And, you know, if you imagine a box, 4 times, just do it like that, and just keep doing it like that, just to bring that heightenedness down. So if somebody is really struggling and they are finding that they're just, it's taken over their lives really, depending on how serious it is and what they're dealing with, you know, sometimes it's really important to go to the doctor and just mention to the doctor about it, so the doctor can just keep an eye on them. Especially if the anxiety is related to a medical condition that's undiagnosed, which is an interesting one, because that can actually be the case. So also keeping a journal is something else that I'd advise, because keeping a journal can help disperse the energy around the feelings that we are experiencing, and can help us to make sense by what we're writing, as to what's really going on. Exercise, really important. Getting that regular exercise daily if we can. Avoiding alcohol and you know, recreational drugs. I know, you know, we're talking perhaps to Christians here, and we wouldn't expect them to be participating, but of course, you know, some people do. So it's really important to you know, avoid that sort of thing. Relaxation and stress management techniques are really good. So like I was saying, the breathing, there's some lovely Christian mindfulness apps that you can listen to. I listen to Encountering Peace when I can, which really helps. Also, getting enough sleep and a really healthy diet is really important. What I don't think we really realize unless we study food, our food intake, is that some foods can actually increase our anxiety because they're just not good for us. So that's really important as well.
Okay, great. Well, that's really helpful. Some good practical things there that people can use, and in terms of spiritual element as well. And yeah, it's just great, really helpful. That it's such a big topic, isn't it? And there's so many people suffering and struggling with it today. So I'm sure that would have been a great help. Carolyn, thank you for joining us today. I'm sure that would be really helpful for people. And we'll see you again soon.
Okie doke. Thanks.